and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and I thank you very much for taking time out in your busy day to spend some time with me and my guest and the subject matter that we're going to cover today. One of the things that I wanted to highlight are interesting people, places, and things in the arts and entertainment and cultural community in our area and wherever else you're able to find different places that I'm going to be highlighting. One of the gems that I've discovered that I'd like you to know about is located in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. It's called the Kate, and I have been thinking about and have decided to ask my next guest, the Executive Director, Brett Elliott, to be our guest today, and he has accepted my invitation. So Brett, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you for having me.
One of the things I wanted, because it's a human interest show, is to be able to start with you. Why don't you tell us about yourself? Where have you been? Where are you now? And how did you come to the Kate?
Sure. I am a Michigan native. I grew up in a small town called Reese, Michigan, and have always done theater growing up, and eventually went to college for that and landed at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in Waterford, Connecticut, and spent a few years there. And in my time working at the O'Neill, I did a lot of outside freelance work, and I freelanced for Lime Old Lime High School doing their musicals, and their musical Footloose was performed at the Kate while their auditorium was being renovated, and that's when I got to know the Kate. And from there I went on to grad school from the O'Neill. I went to grad school in Chicago for 2 years and stayed in touch with the former executive director of the Kate, and eventually made my way back as the interim director and then as the full-time executive director, and that was 5.5 years ago now.
Did you know, and we talked about it earlier, that as you were growing up into a teenager, into adulthood, that theater and the entertainment industry was going to be something that you'd pursue?
I think I always enjoyed it. I did a lot of stage management and technical theater work, primarily, a little bit on stage. I'm not an actor. But when I first started college, I did not take that direction. I was, growing up in Michigan, I didn't know if I leave Michigan, theater didn't seem like a job I was going to have in Michigan, so I didn't begin down that path. But it ended up working out that I got a full ride a few years into community college to another university for theater, and continued in that direction.
Now, what is it that took you from, now you were in touch with the interim director at the Kate, what decided in your point of life to be able to come to are you living in Old Saybrook now?
I live in Waterford.
Okay. What brought you back to this area and decided to take on the Kate?
When I first came back, Chuck, who's the former executive director, Chuck Still, was heading out, so I came as the interim. So I got to come just for 6 months first and spend some time here. And I already knew the area. I already loved the area, so I would have been happy to stay. And then it just so happened that I was able to. And Old Saybrook is a great town. I mean, there's a lot to do, and the Kate has really become an iconic part of Main Street, a very busy part of Main Street, and it's really great to be able to know that you lead that charge, and that 45,000 people came to the Kate last year because I booked things for them to come and see, and they wanted to come and see them. And we have a name like Katherine Hepburn attached, so that's pretty nice as well.
I was going to also ask you about that. Tell me about Katherine Hepburn and how her name or herself as an actress became something that the theater would now name itself after. Sure.
So Katherine Hepburn was never at the Kate. It was never the Kate when she was alive. Of course, she was Old Saybrook's most iconic resident, living in Fenwick, and that's where she passed as well in 2003. And then shortly after that, they were looking to restore the what was a theater, then town hall, and then became a theater again. And so it seemed like a natural choice to name it after one of America's greatest movie icons, Katherine Hepburn. So we have a great relationship with the estate, and we love to promote Katherine Hepburn. We have a small museum. I love to say that a lot of our programming is based on sort of that bold, feisty spirit that Kate had. But she never knew we existed. But I'd like to think that she'd be proud of what it is now.
Now I saw in the website that you're going to do the Philadelphia story, one of her movies. Do you highlight her as an artist in your repertoire of programming there?
We do. So we do a Kate Classic roughly once a month. So we've shown all of her films now at this point multiple times. Up until a recent moment, 2 of them were still on actual film that we had to show them as. So we have done that. Also, the Saybrook Stage Company, as part of our 10-year anniversary celebration, just did On Golden Pond, the stage play, this past January. And so yeah, we between that and the museum, we certainly love to highlight Katherine Hepburn. And we've also started the Spirit of Katherine Hepburn Award, which we've had 4 years that we've bestowed that on somebody, and then this will be the 5th year coming up. But Glenn Close has received that. She attributed Katherine Hepburn to one of the reasons she stayed acting. Christine Baranski also received it, Ann Nyberg, and then Dick Cavett was the first recipient because he had that very iconic interview with Katherine Hepburn.
I did see it on the website today.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, Kate was never at the Kate. We're pretty proud to be the Kate.
Tell me some of the items now. I understand you have a store as well. You sell items there as well?
Oh, we have a small boutique, sure, yep. Right at the front when you come in the entrance. So there's merchandise that has, you know, our logo and things on it, but also Katherine Hepburn movies and other postcards and things that you'd expect to find at a theater. So
then, tell me about the building. It's historic in nature and a national preservation building as well? Sure,
it's on the National Register of Historic Places. The original building was built in 1911 as a theater and multi-use center, and it was used as a theater in those early days. And it was used as that until about the 30s, and then it became a mixed-use space. Anecdotally, I believe there was a classroom in there at one point. I've heard stories about a basketball hoop being mounted on the front of the balcony where the projector now is. And then in around 1960, it became Town Hall. And they made some modifications, put in a drop ceiling, and kind of divided it up, but they didn't hurt any of the original woodwork. It was all still sort of behind everything. And so when Town Hall moved to the school behind the Kate, or the old school that was renovated, and all the dividing walls and things came out, all the original woodwork was there, and they were able to restore the building into a very gorgeous theater. Small, intimate space, all of the New England charm that you'd want, but with all of the modern amenities we needed to open as a theater, including larger lobby spaces which were added, and lighting systems and sound systems and all of those things.
I was going to ask you, tell me about the theater itself now that we've talked about the building. What's the inside like?
Well, like any theater, there's a stage and seats, right? No, so there's around 250 seats, soon to be a few more actually, and it's a smaller stage, so 20 by 24 feet. Lighting system is top notch, sound system is top notch. Those were all put in, and we've continued to do upgrades to those over time. It's all light color finishes and red velvet seats, as you'd expect. The iconic look of a theater, and it's a really nice space. That's hosted literally thousands of shows at this point since we reopened in 2009.
Is there a particular genre that you focus on there, or do you have all different kinds of opportunities for people to see something?
Yeah, our programming is very eclectic. So on any given weekend, you could see a tribute band. To any artist. You could see the Met Opera simulcast from New York. You could see a children's show. You could see a singer-songwriter. It could be, Livingston Taylor coming in. It could be Judy Collins. It could be anything. It could be magic. It could be comedy. It could be other simulcast content. We show live streams from the National Theatre in London, also the Bolshoi Ballet. We also do a movie series in the summer, so blockbusters from days gone by, Jaws and Grease and Mary Poppins, things like that. It's pretty incredible programming, and most things are there for one show, maybe two. So every night is opening night, and every night is closing night, and we do it again the next day.
Is that normal for a theater to have an opportunity where it's like a one-stop location, 1 or 2 or 3 nights, and then they leave? Or is it, I'm thinking of we were talking about the Goodspeed, where they're there for many weeks. Yeah. You're a little different.
Yep. So Goodspeed is a producing theater, so they produce their own work and they'll do a full run. They'll build the sets, and they'll do the costumes, and then that cast comes in and rehearses. So we're a presenting house, meaning that the content, for the most part, is not our content. So we're bringing in other things for a short period of time. That presenting model does work in the Broadway or theater world like that. Some of the bigger roadhouses that bring in Broadway tours for 2 nights, 3 nights, a week, 2 weeks, live by that model. But at a small theater like us, we kind of just turn over each night, and there's always something new. And because I mentioned theater, I haven't mentioned the Saybrook Stage Company. So yes. They are local community theater, really great local community theater, and they're celebrating their 10th anniversary with us. So they've done, I think, 18 or 19 performances at the Kate, and they do 4 or 5 performances. So they'll be in the theater all week, and then they'll run over the full weekend.
And I read on their website that you are the house that they perform at, so they are exclusively to your theater once a year?
Twice a year. Yep.
Twice a year.
January and July, typically. So a summer show, and usually a comedy in the summer, and then a show in January. Sometimes a comedy, sometimes something that's a little deeper, a little darker, or a little different, or a little bit unique, which the Saybrook Stage Company doesn't do just Neil Simon shows that some community theaters do. They'll take chances on little-known works or really unique works, which I think is really wonderful.
Are there other local presenters or theaters, or you mentioned magic, all kinds of other things that come to you as well?
Yeah, one of the things that we love to see come in each year, and we have a great relationship with them, is Vista Life Innovations. They do their All Abilities production at the Kate, typically a musical, and that's usually in the spring. So this year it got postponed, but they'll be back with us next year. And they're there for a full week, and it's a really amazing week of a real celebration of accomplishment and arts, and just a really neat show. And then Broadway Kids and Company over in Niantic, they're usually with us for a week. The Saltmarsh Opera also comes in, usually in the fall. And Eastern Connecticut Ballet does classes at the Kate in our dance studio, but also present Ballet Spooktacular each year in the fall. We did 5 performances of that in 2 days last year for families to come and see. So there's lots of folks that we work with every year, and then lots of people that are new and come in for the first time.
Well, if you don't mind, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide. It provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Hi, I'm Kelly. It is my job to teach employees the responsible way to sell both tobacco and electronic cigarettes. As of October 1st, 2019, a customer must be at least 21 years old to purchase a tobacco product or an electronic cigarette. The law also says all employees must card anyone who appears to be under the age of 30 years old. The free updated prevention education program will be available on October 1st, 2019 at cttobaccotraining.com.
Hello and welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I am Deborah Gilbert, your host, and I am thrilled today to highlight the gem, the Kate, located in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and our guest today is Brett Elliott, the Executive Director. And Brett, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
I know that you're busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Sure.
One of the things we just talked about, and I absolutely value your opinion, is the town of Old Saybrook. Yeah. Why don't you tell us about the relationship you have with the town?
Oh, sure. So the Kate is a town building officially, but we have this incredible relationship with the town where we've become, I believe, a significant economic driver in town. I love hearing from restaurant owners in town who say things like, we know exactly when you have a sold out show because we're really busy. And you know, when the Kate first opened and we were only doing maybe a Friday and a Saturday night, and it was growing and it was great, I think it's become fairly indisputable. 10 or I guess now 11 years later, as frequently it's a 4 to 6 week or 4 to 6 shows a week, maybe more, and in the summer we can easily be doing 8 to 10 shows a week with afternoon matinees and evening shows, film content. Of course not this summer, but in a regular year, about 275 events last year that we did.
And it's nice on the website that you list places to stay, places to eat, locations, that you're highlighting the local community as well.
Sure. Well, and that's actually really important because we are a nonprofit. So our relationship with some of those businesses is really important because they support us. They may be sponsors, they may help us be able to do what we do, and then we're thrilled to give back and make sure that people are coming to town and filling those restaurants and those hotels and shopping on Main Street. It's a really, really great relationship between the businesses in town and the Cape.
Well, it's really nice because Old Saybrook, Connecticut is a very special town and has a tremendous amount to offer. But to think that the Cape, which is a very special gem, is located and the two of them together, I mean, it's just the place to go.
Yeah, it has become the place to go, and we love that. And we see people from all over. I think almost 10% of our audience last year were from out of state. And people often are following artists and come in to see those artists and maybe don't know about the Cape. But I love stories like there's a gentleman, I think he lives in New Jersey, and his son went to school in Providence, and he stumbled upon the Cape because of an artist he followed was playing there. So he stopped in, and now he stops in all the time for shows, traveling back and forth because it's a great place.
Have you found any international guests that come in as well?
There have been some, particularly to visit the museum in the summer as people are passing through Saybrook. Certainly there are international artists that are on our stage. I think it might be a little more of a stretch for frequent international guests to be in the audience, but there have been certainly some. Yeah, we have a guest book in the museum that has many countries represented.
If an artist, organization, performer would like to be able to perform at the Cape,
sure.
How do they present themselves to you for consideration?
Yep, they call or email, and info@thecape.org goes directly to me, and I review everything. There can be days where we get 20 to 30 submissions of different things, so getting back to everybody is a challenge. And we work with a lot of agents that represent many artists, and agents that know us really well and know what things will succeed in our market and which things are a little more challenging, or which things are right for our smaller space as opposed to a 1,000-seat room. So we do work a lot with agents, but we look at everything that comes in.
Now, when a performing entity is coming to perform at your location, do they load in from the back and then place everything together and they perform, yeah, and then they load back out and then they leave?
Kind of. There's a lengthy process called an advance where there's a contract with the rider, and we know what they're bringing and what they're not bringing and what we're providing and what has to be in the dressing room and where they have to stay, or whether we're providing rooms to stay, or all of those things. And so we have a really great production manager who handles all of those things, every last detail. So when they walk in the door, we're ready for them. Our audio and lighting folks have everything ready, and we get them on stage. We sound check them quickly, and then we, not too long after, open the doors for people to come in.
Now, I was just thinking, as you were saying that the production manager would handle this, where do they stay? Where do they eat, the performers and the people behind the scenes?
It depends on the artist. There's different agreements with them all. There are several places we work with around Old Saybrook, both for lodging and for food. And often we're providing meals, so there's a hospitality representative who may be taking orders and going and picking things up while they're there.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
At 250 seats, we don't have a lot of the people who have to have just the green M&Ms and those kinds of funny stories that you hear. They're pretty much real people, which is great. But we do have some that have lengthy lists of things that they require by their rider or contract.
And there are dressing rooms and a green room and
oh, yeah.
place to hang out in the back.
All of the things you'd expect are all there. Yeah, indeed.
Why don't we talk about what's on the mind of everybody, which is COVID-19.
Yep.
How are you doing, and how is the theater doing during this time?
Yeah, it's a very, very different time. in a way where we're used to seeing so many people coming into our building, and we look forward to the show arriving every night and loading in and opening the doors. We haven't opened our doors for an audience in over 4 months, which is devastating is sort of the word, but we will get through it, and we will do it again, so we're just maintaining all of the pieces in the meantime. And we have, because we program content, often 6, 8, 10, 12 months out, we've moved, postponed, or canceled about 150 events at this point since March 13th, when everything collapsed. So that's been sort of scary, and right now everything through September 15th is moved, and then I anticipate there could be more, but the way our contracts work, we kind of have to take it in steps. So, audiences have been great and patient with us. They know that we're doing everything we can, but we have not all of the answers either.
Now, how do you find out your information? Does it come from the governor, the state, the local? When you can open, what you can do? What's your future look like?
Yeah, well, I think most of the pieces are coming from the state and the reopening phases. So when phase 3 recently got delayed, that was challenging, because we were sort of looking at progress and hoping to, even if phase 3 only had 50 people that could come in, the next phase would have more, but now everything's sort of paused. So we're just waiting, and we'll keep watching, and we're looking at doing some films in August. Movie theaters could reopen at 50% capacity, so we've worked with the town, and we can do movies. We're going to do one a week just to test things out and do it well. I don't want to flood it with anything. I want to figure it out and figure out how to do it the right way.
Right.
There's a lot of unique things that people wouldn't even think about, like if a show in April that got postponed, was sold out and 80% of people kept their tickets. How do we even put those people back in the theater if we're at a point where we can only have 50% of the audience? Like, who doesn't get to come? Which is not how we would look at it. We would figure it out and make it right by everybody. But there are a lot of challenges.
Well, I was thinking about it. 6 feet distance in the lobby, at the museum, in the boutique, and then in the theater. Do you have every other seat that somebody can sit in?
Sort of. We've mapped out what it would look like if every person were not coming. If it was individual people, it could be 65 people at 6 foot utilizing the balcony and the main floor. But for most music acts, we need 60 to 65% to break even on that show. So at the moment, we're just going to pretty much remain sort of quiet because we have to.
And I saw on the website, because we had talked about the spreadsheet that listed things into latter part of next year. But you also said, depending on the artist and their touring schedule, as well as their contracts, that you've got a lot that you have to deal with to get these acts to come back.
Yeah, so for many of those artists, they're trying to put back together full tours, and so we're all trying to work together to figure out when they're going to come back through again and how we'll make that happen. So yeah, I did want to mention camps if I could.
Yes,
so one good thing that's happening this summer is our Kate's Camp for Kids program is running. Very limited capacity under all of the state guidelines, 20 kids a week in 2 different pods of 10 on separate floors of the theater. But we're really thrilled to have been able to figure out how to do that and do it well, because kids right now desperately need to see people their own age and have that interaction. And so it's a challenging thing, because nobody can guarantee that nothing could happen. It's a crazy thing we're living through right now, but we're doing everything we can and taking every precaution we can, and we're thrilled to be able to move forward with that.
How are the children dealing with all of this? Have you encountered any kind of feeling? Granted, they're probably very excited to see one another and be back at camp, but have you noticed that they're not feeling 100%?
I think they're shyer, I think, when they first see people their own age again, because they haven't recently, which is sort of crazy. But I think they're really grateful to be at camp. They're energized and they're excited, and the feedback from parents has been strong. They get home and that's all they can talk about. Of course, it's the only thing they've done in probably 3 or 4 months, so it's great to see, and we're glad to be able to do it.
Now that runs into August, and then will it run again into the winter or into the spring?
Yeah, we typically have an after-school version for a few weeks after school, like 1 day a week. We're still assessing the fall, simply because schools are still figuring out what they're doing. Right. So we'll take that one step at a time, in a way that you're usually making plans, 6 months to a year out. Nobody can make plans, 6 days out right now because it all changes.
Now, if things were to change and get better,
yeah,
somewhat soon,
yeah,
what do you see for the future for the Kate from your perspective now?
Sure. Well, we eventually will get back to programming, and that may be a limited capacity version first, but I know that while everybody's sitting at home watching Netflix and Hulu right now, because that's what you can do, there is still something very special about being in a room with people and experiencing that artist that you love with other people who love that artist, or experiencing a play that really made you think about something that you had never thought about before. So we'll be back, and we're excited to get back to it. We're going to do it safely, and we, the thing I haven't said is we're a nonprofit, but for people to keep supporting us during this is really important. Membership and things of that nature, because we can't survive without it, and it's a strange time, but we know a lot of people want us to be there when it's over.
And as we're getting to a close here, I do want to talk about on Golden Pond, or what can happen when people bequeath in their will that they can leave something to the Kate. What happens to an investment of their money?
A bequest or
a bequest?
Yeah. So the Kate is a nonprofit, so significant things can happen. Where there's always a need for programming and staffing and like camps. Making those opportunities available for the next generation is what those dollars are used for. And we're a very responsible steward of that, and we're excited to be.
Well, we have just a second left. Tell us the website address so people can go and find you.
Sure. So thekate.org is the place to go. There are lots of shows in the future, and we look forward to seeing everybody when they can come and see us.
Well, thank you, Brett, very much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for being here. Again, you've been watching Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert. My guest has been Brett Elliott, the Executive Director of thekate.org. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.